Thank you very much. My name is Deb Barker. No robocall this time, but I am one of the authors of a letter that replied to Councilmember Rasmussen's recent letter about this project. As West Seattle residents, we are concerned about certain aspects that have been presented by the developer. They appear to be in error, and our letter was intended to set the record straight. As part of the community outreach, we've been involved in review of this project since it first came to our notice in 2012. We're very concerned that the developer has overstated their actual outreach with the West Seattle community. And this is important because it appears that maybe a particular group or board is in support of the project, but in actuality, that particular group or board was never given a presentation. The truth is this project has not been fully vetted by all of the groups claimed by the applicant. We've attended all of the Southwest Design Review Board meetings and the Seattle Design Commission meetings, and unfortunately found that many of these public processes affecting this project really limited the public process and our ability to give meaningful input. At each public presentation, the developer revealed new information that was not available to the public. And the 2 minutes was never enough time to adequately comment on the complex and varied issues that this project presented. For accuracy's sake, I just want to clarify that the Southwest Design Review Board was not unanimous in their vote on this project. It's frustrating because we all want good development, especially in West Seattle and especially this corner. We're not anti-development. We've been concerned about the traffic impacts this project will have and its alley vacation will create. We've provided professional transportation evaluations. It's in conflict with what SDOT has been provided. Thank you, and my time is up. I appreciate your time today.
Thank you, Debbie. The next person is Joe Rogoff, and then Rebecca Saldana and Don Morrissey.
Good morning, council members. I want to make 2 points in my brief time this morning. One is about Whole Foods Market as a tenant, and the second is about the trucks and loading. Last time we were here, there was a real misrepresentation of what the truck and loading situation is for this store. We monitor our truck traffic because we need to for business purposes. We average about 40 trucks a day, and I can give you the details for each individual store. The person who looked at the Roosevelt Square store was counting trucks that were going to Bartell's and all the development up above Whole Foods Market. Because we fully control our loading dock, we fully control the times of receiving. This is very important. We can keep truck traffic off of the streets during the times when the neighbors or Department of Transportation wants us to do that. We've done that in numerous communities in the past, and we're always happy to partner with the neighbors and talking about the best situation for particular stores. We have 2 tractor trailers 5 days a week. The rest are bobtails, except for 2 other tractor trailers twice a week. That's just real. That's what it is. That's what our truck situation is. The second is about us as a tenant in this development. I think this development is well conceived. I think the development has really looked at the impact on the neighborhood and the pedestrians. And I have to say once again, Whole Foods Market being singled out as a tenant does not seem right to me. Trader Joe's was not protested when they went in, another non-union shop in the same intersection. We don't protest when PCC is going in close to a Roosevelt Square store or Trader Joe's close to Redmond. There's no reason to single out any individual business, and I hope we're over that conversation at this point. So I thank you for your time and your consideration. This is a great project. It'll do really good things for this community. Thank you.
Thank you. The next person is Rebecca. And if you would come to the microphone when your name is called at the beginning, that would save us a little bit of time. So it's Rebecca, then Don Morrissey. Don, if you would come to the other microphone, then Steve Williamson and Josh Sutton. Thank you.
Good morning, Committee Chair Rasmussen and fellow council members. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today. We are here at the Transportation Committee hearing, but the decision before you today to vacate our publicly held street to a private developer is not about improving the transportation system. You're deciding to give a private developer our public right-of-way in order for him to realize his full development capacity and maximize his profits. Many may not understand that the Seattle street vacation policy is one of the few tools available to our elected officials to shape private development in the city towards our priorities of building an inclusive city of opportunity for all. The street vacation policy encourages the city to deny street vacations that do not advance city planning goals, particularly if inconsistent with the desired intensity of development and preferred uses. Our research and analysis has uncovered that currently our street vacation policy is one that approval has been a foregone conclusion as long as the developer ponies up enough cycle tracks and pocket parks. We believe that this council needs to shift emphasis away from transportation to community and economic outcomes when evaluating public interest. As such, we urge council to not approve the proposed alley vacation today and to continue to have discussion whether this project meets the community's development needs. And as a born and bred West Seattle resident, I was raised around Delridge. Delridge is an area that actually does need grocery and the kind of development that needs to happen. And so I just think it's important. My parents continue to live there. We continue to be shoppers in the Junction and Admiral and Westwood Village. And so, I am an active member of this community, although I currently reside in Rainier Beach. The decision today cannot be taken out of the context of the city of Seattle, where we have an increasing problem of affordability and gender gap inequality. And so I encourage you to vote no today.
Thank you, Rebecca. Del Marcy, then Steve Williamson, and John Stein.
Good morning, council members. My name is Donald Marcy. I'm a land use attorney at Cairn Cross and Hempelman. I'm also the chairman of the Government Affairs Committee for NAIOP, the Association for Commercial Real Estate Development. NAIOP has been following this alley vacation closely for the last 2 years. We submitted a letter to Councilmember Rasmussen this last fall after the mayor's recommendation came out. For our organization, adding density to Seattle and to the region is critical. It's important not only for the affordability of housing, but it's also important in order so that we have sufficient housing to accommodate all the people that are projected to come to our region over the next 10, 20 years. It's especially important to have dense new development near transit lines. To have density downtown and in close-in locations, we often need 3/4 of a block or a full block of development. That in turn necessitates alley vacations. From the outside, watching this project being politicized to the degree that it has by former Mayor McGinn and the grocery unions is really quite disturbing. Far larger and more complex projects have gone through the process without opposition. Without the alley vacation, both the community and the project lose. The city gets less density and less progress towards affordability. The community doesn't receive the $2.4 million of additional public benefit paid for by the developer. Developers are looking at projects now with the idea of foregoing alley vacation simply because there's too much risk associated with it. This is bad for the city because it will result in less density and less affordable housing. So we ask you to not lose the opportunity for a good housing project near transit, and please move this alley vacation forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The next person is Steve Williamson.
Thank you. We urge you to vote no this morning on the alley vacation. And on behalf of the terms of the alley vacation as currently structured do not provide adequate public benefit. As we saw from the March 11th hearing, SDOT was unable to recommend approval of the proposed public benefit, a highly unusual conclusion. We hasten to add that the chart that was shown many times throughout the hearing in March was the developer's portrayal of the public benefit. It was not an SDOT analysis of the actual benefit matrix. This is an important distinction because city staff has acknowledged the fact that not all the developers' claimed benefits ought to in fact count for public benefits. We're asking any council member who's considering a yes vote to please publicly convey your respective explicit rationale for making your judgment that the public benefit is adequate. For instance, what specifically is a public benefit in your view for this project, and on what basis is the total public benefit adequate? Additionally, we asserted from the beginning of this process that the very process itself is deeply flawed. We have confirmed, for instance, that there's only been one street or alley vacation denied by the City Council since 1998. Development review process could and should be a robust public process that helps development serve the public interest and provide clear public benefit. It's not too late to make that approach with this proposal. I just want to say, yesterday, I'm sure you saw the New York Times front page story, talked about income inequality and mentioned that the federal government is gridlocked and unable to really address this important issue of our times. Puts the issue firmly in the lap of local governments. Development policy is one way, one tool you currently have to address income inequality in addition to the other discussions that are going on. Mary Jean Ryan, who we all know, says, not addressing development, but the larger point, agreed that local governments had an important role to play. Quote, the pace of change is too slow given the forces we're confronting about income inequality, she said. Quote, we have to accelerate the progressive policy adoption if we're going to help more of the community share in prosperity. And that's really the heart of the question, is how are we going to advance what we believe our values are through development. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Steve, Josh Sutton, and then Jim Gunther and John Kostakos.
Hi, I'm Josh Sutton. I'm a West Seattle resident. I work in the West Seattle Triangle area, and I served on the West Seattle Triangle Advisory Committee from 2009 to 2011. I do support this alley vacation. I ask that you move it forward with a vote today. You've heard a lot of pros and cons for the past few months. You've heard all the good from the proponents. You've heard a lot of things from the opponents as well, that it's flawed, it requires more study. There hasn't been enough public input, and we should take a pause and kind of review all of that. You have enough information to move forward today. City staff's report to this committee stated with certain enforcements in place that this project generally meets the many detailed expectations of the Triangle Development Plan. The new mid-block connector will work. City staff called out the configuration as more like a street than an alley. It has substantial pedestrian space, and those 2 lanes for the traffic are actually wider than 2 lanes on the Spokane Street Viaduct, so it can handle the cars and the trucks. Now, what happens if we don't move this forward? Likelihood is that this developer sells the property off. The next developer will not seek the mid-block alley vacation. Why would they? They'll go through this same process again. We will have less ability to get community benefit for our West Seattle community. We will likely have a less substantial and valuable asset in West Seattle. It'll be 50% more housing, it'll have less parking and less retail, and it doesn't get any better. So today's proposed development gets much of what our community asked for in the Triangle Plan. The project has enjoyed appropriate and substantial public scrutiny, and as it should, because this is an important project. It's passed every step of the Seattle development process along the way, and the developer is going to be buying that property, and they will maintain it in perpetuity as a public access. So you have all you need to make a decision today. The next study funded by one side or the other isn't going to tell us anything more. So let's just take a step forward today with your vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Jim Gunther and then John Kostakos.
I'm Jim Gunther, a resident of West Seattle, member of the Chamber, on the YMCA board, and part of the coalition of Get It Right in West Seattle. I thank you for the opportunity today to speak to you. I recognize that woo-woo times, the train's pulling away from the station, and unfortunately, the only people on that train are going to be the developers, the city council, and city staff. The citizens who've expressed concerns here will be left at the platform. Councilman Rasmussen, 3 months ago, Sean Harris and I appeared before you and expressed our land use concerns. We have no problem with Whole Foods. We have no problem with development if 4 conditions are met. And we expressed those to you at that time. We thought it was a land use issue. When we got through, we asked you what we could do. You said you have alternatives, and would you meet with the developers? We have done both. Alternatives have been given to you, and we've met the developers. The developers told us no. So now, as my elected official, my voice at that table, I'm going to ask you, as a representative of authority, to request from the developers 4 conditions. And when those 4 conditions are met, I say approve the application, move the development forward. The 4 conditions are: 1, the mid-block connector. Follow the guidance of the Triangle Plan. Make the east half of that mid-block connector available to the traffic to handle the in and out to the Whole Foods or whatever store is there. Make the west half, leave it for pedestrian only as set forth in the Triangle Plan, so there's easy access to that park without the fear of transportation. 2, give us 2 meaningful plazas. Not 285 feet and 485 feet, which is 16 by 12 and 16 by 20. And you don't have, I have not found in the Seattle Code where there's meaningful plazas.
Thank you, Mr. Guthrie. John Christopher, and then Patrick Keating and Richard Walker.
My name is John Kostakos. I'm a lifelong resident of West Seattle for my 53 years. My family's been in West Seattle since 1937. I can assure you that I've had numerous conversations over 7-8 years with people in West Seattle talking about Whole Foods coming. I guess I'm not loud enough. Okay. I've had so many conversations with people talking about Whole Foods coming to West Seattle. They were talking about Trader Joe's coming to West Seattle, and the overwhelming majority of every person I've talked to, they want Whole Foods to come here. Right now, if I want to go to Whole Foods, I got to clog up the traffic by going to Inner Bay or going downtown to Westlake. I used to go to Ballard to go to Trader Joe's. And in these discussions over time, people are like, wouldn't it be nice if we could have this? Well, wouldn't it be nice if we can have a Whole Foods here? Now, over the last few years, a lot of adjustments have been made to our traffic patterns. On Alaska Way, when the tunnel started, the traffic was clogged up, and what we did? We adjusted. A lot of changes have been made to Alaska Street right by this project with left turn only lanes, with bus only lanes. We did? We adjusted. The voters in West Seattle really, really want to see this happen. And I can't see any way that this is going to ruin the community. If Whole Foods doesn't come in here, I don't know what you're going to put there. But there will be problems and complaints about anything. But I think I can tell you without question that the voters and the citizens of West Seattle are overwhelmingly in favor of seeing Whole Foods here. I believe the safety concerns have been addressed overall over a long period of time. And I honestly can't tell you that I've ever seen any opposition in the voters. And I just wanted you to know that. A lot of times we felt like we have to go to other areas of the city to get things that we can't. But why not us? Why can't we have something like this in our neighborhood? Thanks.
Thank you, Patrick Keating. Then Richard Walker.
Hello, my name is Patrick Keating, and I'm a West Seattle resident. I live about half a mile down Fauntleroy from the proposed development. I'm here to talk about the traffic impacts, particularly along the Alaska and Fauntleroy corner where this development will be. Currently, those crosswalks and those bus stops are difficult at best. Adding more traffic without mitigation factors will make those situations much worse. There's also several bus stops that meet in front of the current Whole Foods location, and they will be impacted partially because some of them at least are probably about right where the mid-block connector is. They are limited service bus stops, but still those bus stops need to be included. We need to figure out what we're going to do. I'd also like to talk a little bit about the mid-block connector. One of the pro people meant that it was wider than the current viaduct. Well, it has to be because you have semi-trucks turning around, which they generally don't do on the viaduct. We have some pictures here, some mock-ups of what it would look like with trucks actually in the mid-block connector. It's not going to be a fun thing for pedestrians, and they're going to have to be crossing parking garages and loading docks. You're not just going to be walking through that mid-block connector because it's going to be an unpleasant place for pedestrians to go through because you're going to be dodging so much traffic. Anyway, those are my comments. I hope you vote no. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Keating. I have 4 people remaining on the sign-up sheet. That includes Kurt Armbrust, Andy Rasmussen, and Dave Montero. Kurt, you cited twice. So go ahead, Kurt.
Oh, my name is Richard Walker.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, skipped over you. Excuse me. Go ahead.
My name is Richard Walker. I'm a resident of West Seattle, and I am here in favor of the application. A lot of this has turned into some kind of bizarre union thing versus non-union and Whole Foods and all this. And I think what we really need to take a look at here is this is really about the development of the property there. And I don't know if you've been down there, but the place is a cesspool. It's just derelict buildings, graffiti. The alley in question really isn't even an alley per se. It's actually 2 streets cut off by a couple of dumpsters. And I think the project is going to be a big plus for West Seattle. That's the important thing here. Is it really going to help West Seattle? Yes, it will. We need the allocation to be approved so that this development can go forward. I think we've sat around and been wringing our hands long enough to get this thing going. One of the things that have been discussed here is, there's not enough room for pedestrians and there's going to be trucks. And I'm like, it's a loading zone. Why people are wandering around a loading zone, I don't know. I hope you look at this, from the standpoint that this development is good for West Seattle, and in order for it to go forward, we need the alley to be vacated. Thank you.
Again, the last worker who signed up are Kurt Armbrust, Andy Rasmussen. Is this Kurt here? No? Andy? Okay. Dave Montour. Oh, and would you identify yourself?
Kurt Armbrust.
Sorry?
Kurt.
Okay, great, thank you. Go ahead, please.
My name's Kurt, and I'm here to voice my support for the allocation of 4755 Fauntleroy Way. I've had some involvement with the Getting It Right for West Seattle Coalition, as I was concerned about the massive increase in development in West Seattle, and I became interested in their activity and voicing concern about the Whitaker project. But after attending several meetings over the course of a few months, I noticed that they were focusing only on this one project alone. Despite the announcements of many new projects in the area, where was the concern for these developments? I began wondering why there was no resources allocated to oppose other projects in West Seattle. I soon found out that the group was formed to only protest one aspect of this one development, Whole Foods being a tenant at the Whitaker. I later found out that Getting It Right for West Seattle has been funded by the UFCW Local 21 Union for one reason alone: to defeat this project because of a non-union grocery store has been slated to be a tenant. Getting It Right does not appear to actually be concerned about rampant growth in West Seattle, but only to stop this project from coming. This was not the reason I had originally attended their meetings. One aspect that I do feel very strongly about is the issue of parking. As it stands right now, developments are not required to add much parking for the building and its tenants, a problem facing neighborhoods all over the city. This project is slated to bring almost 600 parking spaces to the area. I fear that if the project falls through, another developer will take over, build a 9-story building with little or no parking, which I feel is grossly insufficient to the area. I've come to believe that it's a good project and an excellent use of this existing property. The plan stands to be a huge improvement, and I hope you consider approving this allocation today. Thanks.
The last person who signed up on this issue is Dave Montour.
Hi, my name is Dave Montour, a West Seattle resident and a West Seattle business owner. I just wanted to go on the record about the Chamber of Commerce. I heard the Chamber of Commerce mentioned by one of the speakers. The West Seattle Chamber of Commerce fully supports this development on its merits, so I just wanted to clarify that real quickly. I wouldn't be standing here today if we were building a basketball arena on this site. Think about that when we go to vacate Occidental Street, because you'll probably see me at that hearing as well. Anyway, I've been driving by this site for the greater part of 46 years, my 46 years in West Seattle, and I really didn't think there was an alley there ever until this whole issue sort of got brought up. So let's have that under consideration. I urge you to vote today. Vote yes, vote no. Let's move this process forward. If we can go from 932 to 15 in 6 months, surely after 2 years we can get a building built in West Seattle. Thank you.
Thank you.